Thank you very much, Miss Tarver and Drumline. You did an awesome job. You've heard our students sing songs this afternoon about the sacrifices made by our nation's service members. We often forget the sacrifices that are also made by their loved ones. No one knows more about this than the mothers and fathers of our heroes. Our speaker for this afternoon is someone you all know very, very well. She is the mother of Specialist Ryan Russell Berg, a Sabine Pass graduate that made the ultimate sacrifice for our country's freedom. I would like everyone to please help me welcome Miss Scottie Ray.
Good afternoon. For those of you that are new to Sabine Pass School and may not know who I am, my name is Scottie Ray. I was born and raised in Sabine Pass, and I am the superintendent's secretary here at the school. My journey is different from what you usually hear on Veterans Day. My journey is a journey of my son, Ryan Berg, and our family's journey with him. A picture of Ryan hangs in the entryway of the main building and one in the front office. Our sports complex was named after him, and the football and basketball jersey he wore in school, number 22, was retired after his younger brother finished wearing it and graduated. Ryan still has family here at Sabine Pass School besides me. His sister-in-law is our second grade teacher, Miss Berg. His niece, Piper Berg. His little cousins, Reed and Avery Saunders. His cousin, Russell Berg, works here also. His cousins, Kaylin and Kinley Velasquez. And also our third grade teacher, Miss Mindy Floyd. And our librarian, Jessica Alman. Please bear with me as I talk about this journey. It's been a long time since I have spoken in a public setting like this about Ryan and his journey in the Army. On a personal, daily level, I talk about him all the time. I love telling all the funny, crazy, and sometimes sad stories I have of him. It helps me cope with my grief and keeps him alive for me. Let me go back to the very beginning. Ryan attended Sabine Pass School and graduated in 2005. Ryan's junior year, He had a very good friend that was a senior at Sabine Pass. His name is Kevin McLarty. Kevin had joined the Army his senior year, and he visited his recruiter all the time, and Ryan always tagged along. That is how Ryan started to think about joining the Army. Not long after his senior year began, Ryan made the decision to officially join the Army. I didn't think about it a lot at first, but we knew he would leave in July 2005 after he graduated high school. So the closer that date got, the more it was on my mind and my heart. I accepted his choice to join the Army because I remember how 9/11 affected him, and he didn't want that to happen again. Graduation came and went, and before we knew it, it was time for him to leave for boot camp. I remember myself, my mother, his little sister, and his younger cousin drove him to the recruiting office to see him off. It was a very emotional time for all of us, especially with the war in Iraq going on, and his recruiter had told us ahead of time that we could plan on Ryan deploying to Iraq after he'd been in the Army about a year. Ryan excelled at boot camp, and he found something he loved, and that was important to him. We were all so very blessed when Ryan got his orders and he would be stationed at Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. It was only about 5.5 or 6 hours from home, so he was able to come home almost every weekend. I really believe that was God working. Knowing his plan for Ryan, he wanted to make sure that we got to spend as much time as we could with him. He loved being stationed at Fort Hood, got along with everyone in his company and his platoon. He worked very hard preparing for when he and his brothers would be deployed. His job was driving a Bradley. If you do not know what a Bradley is, it's the vehicle that carries the foot soldiers. He started out being one of his sergeant's driver, and then one of his lieutenants. Notice how precise and accurate he was, and moved him to be his driver. Ryan was so very proud of this, and he felt so appreciated for the job he was doing. So his first year went well, and then I received the call I was dreading. Ryan called to let me know he would deploy in October 2006. We, his whole family, were able to be there to see him off. It was so very emotional for me, but I tried to stay strong for his younger brother and his little sister. They were 16 and 10 at the time. It was the hardest thing I had ever done up to that point. To say goodbye to your child, knowing they will be in harm's way, was tough. When someone asked me how I felt about him fighting in Iraq and the chance he may not make it back alive, I would tell them, I have always believed that God has a date picked for someone's death, and God alone is the only one that knows that date. So all I can do is pray for God to keep him safe and bring him home to me. From what his company was told, no one would be getting R&R till the end of January. So when Ryan called me at the beginning of December and told me he was getting R&R now and would be home for Christmas, we were all so happy. And could not wait to see him. While in Iraq, Ryan called often. Because of the time difference, he always called, usually when I was at work and his brother and sister were at school. I'm very fortunate to work for Sabine Pass School, and that was where his siblings attended school. I work with a great bunch of co-workers, and at the time, the best principal, Miss Christy Hyde. When Ryan called, if I wasn't at my desk, whoever answered the phone would talk with him, and everyone in the office would take turns talking to him, even Miss Hyde, till they could locate me. We always made sure to bring his brother and sister down so they would be able to talk to him. There were plenty of times that you could hear the bombs and artillery going off in the background. Or he would cut the call short because something was happening and tell me he would call me back in a couple of hours. So when he didn't, I always worried that something had happened to him. When he came home for Christmas, he came home on December the 18th. I remember when he came to my front door, all I could do was kiss him all over his face and hug him so tight. We were all so excited to see him. He was only home for 10 days, but managed to see everyone in the family. He was due to head back to Iraq on January 3rd, 2007. I remember when he said goodbye, I hugged him so tight. And I had the weirdest feeling. I can't explain it. It wasn't like I felt like he wasn't going to make it back home alive. It was just a huge feeling of sadness. I remember telling him that I wasn't going to let go of him and not let him go back to that horrible place. He looked at me and he said he had to go back. By doing that, he was keeping all of us safe, and hopefully his little brother would never have to fight. He said, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to come home to you safe." That was our Ryan. Always thinking of others, taking up for the underdog, the innocent, and the ones that could not fight. Ryan flew out on January 3rd, and by January 6th, he was back at his base in Iraq. He wasn't supposed to be on duty the night of January 9th, but I believe that one of the soldiers that was sick, and Ryan volunteered to take his shift. They were protecting the leader of the city's house. It had become a point of base outside of the U.S. main base. They had received artillery shots to the wall that surrounded the house all day. So Ryan's sergeant decided he was going to go check the damage by himself. But Ryan wouldn't let him go alone. He reminded his sergeant that they were supposed to do the buddy system. Now, can you see a PFC, private first class, reminding a sergeant, an officer that outranked him, what they were supposed to do when at war? But that was him, always thinking about others before himself. To check the outside wall, they had to open the gate. A gunshot went off, just missing the sergeant and knocking him down to the ground. The sergeant hollered for Ryan to shut the door. So Ryan reached up to shut the gate. That's when the insurgent, the bad guy, shot my son Ryan. From what his brothers in the Army told me, he was conscious for a little while and complaining that his leg was on fire. It wasn't until they got him inside and started to cut his clothes off that they realized he was shot under the arm. Once they got him inside, he wasn't conscious much, just off and on. The sergeant he was with when he was shot said he was holding his hand, telling him to fight, as the doc was assessing his injuries. While the sergeant was saying, "Fight, baby Berg, fight," he said Ryan turned his head to him, opened his eyes, and a single tear fell. I believe at that moment, Ryan knew he was going to our Lord. They fought so hard to save him, but in the end, the bullet had done too much damage. I am still in contact with some of his fellow soldiers, sergeants, and one of his lieutenants to this day. It gives me joy, and it helps my grief to have that connection with them so many years later. I remember that day, January the 9th. I was in a sad, weird mood. I couldn't figure out why, but I just couldn't shake it. Later that evening, I was cooking dinner, and I heard 2 car doors slam. And then came the knock at my door. Through the glass door, I could see the 2 officers, and immediately I knew why they were there. My son was gone. He was coming home to me, but not the way I hoped. Within 15 to 20 minutes, my house and my yard were filled with people. Our family, friends, and community took care of us. Myself, his dad, his brother, and his sister. The Army in the funeral home gave Ryan a funeral like I have never seen. And at that time in our area, Ryan was only the third soldier to lose their life in Iraq. It was like the world stopped spinning the day of the funeral. The Patriot Guards, along with the police, escorted him home. The people, family, friends, strangers, firemen, refinery workers, schools, and the Sabine Pass Coast Guard lined the streets on the route we took our boy home to his beloved Sabine Pass. My nephew, Ryan's cousin, and a high school friend of Ryan's lined the road once in Sabine Pass with American flags all the way to our cemetery. It was a very moving and beautiful send-off, and one that I, Ryan's dad, and his brother and sister think about daily. It's now been 14 years. It will be 15 this January. We have lived our lives without him. The pain never goes away. Some days feel like the very first day. I don't remember much of the days during the funeral, but I do remember something a minister told me. God gives us two things to deal with grief to move forward in life after one of our loved ones has passed away. One is tears, and one is time. I look at Ryan's nephew and his nieces and know how much he would have spoiled them and loved them. They are 7, 4, and 3 years old. They know who their Uncle Ryan was and that he died to keep them safe. I tell them all the wonderful and crazy stories of their Uncle Ryan all the time. They smile and laugh at every story. Ryan is my hero. He chose to give his life for those he loved to keep them safe. Men and women sacrifice the same thing my son did every day. They are our heroes. Every day, men and women put on that uniform to protect us, all of us. To me, when someone makes the decision to join any branch of our service, they are a hero. And they deserve our gratitude, our support, and our thanks for all they do in that uniform. Because when they put that uniform on, they know too well and understand the risk. But they still put it on because they are willing to take that risk to keep us all safe. They are our veterans, and that is who we remember and celebrate today. Those that have served and are those that are serving. So in closing, when you hear the Pledge of Allegiance or our national anthem, please think of my son and the men and women like Ryan, and those that have and those that are fighting today to keep us safe and give us our freedom. And we are safe because of them to become whatever we want to be. Because of them, we are safe. We are safe to go to any school you want to go to. to play high school sports, to marry who you want, and so many other things that we are blessed to have and be because of their sacrifice and their family's sacrifice. God bless our soldiers, God bless our country, and God bless all of you. And never forget to thank a soldier in all services. Thank you.